In the heart of Nigeria, in the heat of one of the most complex and devastating conflicts Africa had ever seen, an intense and bloody war erupted. This war, known as the Nigerian Civil War, or the Biafran War, was a tragedy of monumental proportions, tearing a young nation apart and leaving millions dead, starving, and displaced. It was a war ignited by ethnic tensions, fueled by political ambitions, and driven by an unyielding desire for survival and self-determination. The story of the Nigerian Civil War is one of fierce battles, heartbreaking losses, and moments of valor, betrayal, and resilience. If you're drawn to the suspense of history and want to discover the untold stories of the Nigerian Civil War, subscribe now. Through our series, we'll bring you face to face with the bravery, sacrifices, and the complex decisions made by leaders and citizens on both sides of the conflict. Don't miss out on our in-depth exploration of this significant historical event that shaped Nigeria's future and reverberated around the world. Your subscription helps us bring you more captivating stories, unveiling the truths of history and its lasting impact on the present. Nigeria gained independence from Britain in 1960, emerging as a nation of vast potential and extreme diversity. With over 250 ethnic groups, Nigeria was home to three major ethnic regions, the Hausa Fulani in the north, the Yoruba in the west, and the Igbo in the east. But what seemed like a promising future quickly took a dark turn. The young nation was plagued by ethnic rivalries, competition for power, and distrust among the regions. In January 1966, these tensions boiled over. A group of mostly Igbo officers staged a bloody coup, assassinating several political leaders, including the Prime Minister, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. This first coup marked the beginning of a period of political instability, sparking resentment in the north, where many saw the coup as an attempt by the Igbo to dominate the country. In July of the same year, a counter-coup was staged, this time led by northern officers who ousted and killed the Igbo head of state, General Aguiyi. The military coups unleashed a deadly cycle of revenge, and anti-Igbo sentiment erupted across the northern regions. Thousands of Igbos were killed in brutal massacres, and many survivors fled back to the eastern region, sparking fears and igniting nationalist fervor in the east. The eastern region, feeling abandoned and targeted, began to question its place in Nigeria. In May 1967, the governor of the eastern region, Colonel Odumogu Ojukwu, declared the independence of the Republic of Biafra. This was not just a political statement but a desperate act for the survival of the Igbo people, who felt they could no longer rely on Nigeria to protect their lives and future. The new Republic of Biafra quickly rallied its people, and scenes of patriotism and defiance filled the region. They believed that with Biafra, they could finally live freely without fear of persecution. But the Nigerian government, led by General Yakubu Gowon, could not accept the secession. To Gowon and many others, Biafra's independence was a threat to Nigeria's unity and a dangerous precedent for other regions. In July 1967, the Nigerian army launched Operation Unicorn, a full-scale military offensive to bring Biafra back under Nigeria's control, marking the beginning of a brutal war that would last 3 long years. Biafra, with a small and under-equipped military, was up against a formidable Nigerian force. But what the Biafrans lacked in resources, they made up for in determination. They mounted a fierce resistance, holding back the Nigerian forces longer than anyone had anticipated. The Biafran forces, many of whom were young men with little training, fought with a ferocity that surprised their enemies. They fortified positions, crafted makeshift weapons, and strategized with limited resources. However, the Nigerian army soon imposed a blockade, cutting off food and medical supplies to Biafra. This act was intended to cripple the secessionist state's ability to continue fighting. But as the blockade dragged on, it became clear that its impact would reach beyond the battlefield. Biafra's civilians, men, women, and children, began to feel the deadly effects of starvation and malnutrition. Images of emaciated children with hollow eyes and protruding ribs shocked the world, and humanitarian agencies rushed to bring aid, but the Nigerian government blocked many of their efforts, determined to bring Biafra to its knees. The horrors of the Biafran War caught the attention of international media, making the Nigerian Civil War one of the first African conflicts to be extensively covered by foreign journalists. Broadcasts of starving Biafran children, hospitals filled with the wounded, and battle-scarred towns filled the screens of households worldwide, sparking outrage and sympathy. Global figures, charities, and religious organizations pleaded for the blockade to be lifted, but the Nigerian government remained resolute. At the same time, foreign countries began taking sides. Some African nations sympathized with Biafra, and humanitarian groups from around the world tried to provide relief. France supported Biafra with arms, seeing the conflict as a way to weaken British influence in Nigeria, while the UK and Soviet Union supplied Nigeria with arms and military support. The war was no longer just a Nigerian issue, it had become a conflict that involved some of the world's superpowers, each with its motives and agendas. By 1969, after nearly 3 years of brutal warfare, Biafra was at the breaking point. The blockade had taken its toll, millions were on the brink of starvation, and supplies were nearly exhausted. The once defiant spirit of Biafra was now shadowed by despair. Despite their bravery, the Biafran forces were overwhelmed by the larger, better-equipped Nigerian military. On January 15, 1970, Biafra finally surrendered. The dream of an independent nation ended, but the scars of the war remained. Over 1 million people, mostly civilians, had perished, and millions more were displaced. General Gowon, in a movement to heal the country, famously declared, "No victor, no vanquished," hoping to unify the nation once more. But the trauma of the Nigerian Civil War left a lasting impact, especially on the Igbo people, who had lost so much in their quest for survival and self-determination. The Nigerian Civil War remains one of the darkest chapters in Nigeria's history. It exposed the dangers of ethnic tension, political corruption, and the devastating consequences of unresolved conflicts. Even today, the memory of Biafra lingers in Nigeria's southeastern region, a reminder of both the resilience of the people and the cost of division. If you've been captivated by the story of the Nigerian Civil War, make sure to subscribe to explore more historical events that shaped Nigeria and beyond. With each story, we dive into the past to uncover the sacrifices, decisions, and courage that continue to influence Nigeria's path forward. Your subscription enables us to share these crucial stories, helping to keep history alive and accessible for future generations. So, don't miss a single tale of resilience and courage. Subscribe now and join us as we uncover more powerful stories from Nigeria's past. Let's remember and honor the lessons of history, celebrating the strength of a nation determined to overcome, no matter the odds.